Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have the opportunity to work on one of the few reels that David has sent in. This is from the Kalamazoo Tackle Company, circa 1960s. It's a Bal Cli 20 special, a Model E. It's the older style bait casting reel. It has a rather large diameter arbor so that you would keep your line to a minimum. It's got a nice gearing system, turns very easily. No anti-reverse in this reel, no drag system in this reel, rather uncomplicated reel. I would put it in the 50s, probably based on the little plastic wrapping here, if that is plastic. And a nice functioning reel. Kalamazoo, Michigan had a couple of tackle companies there, bait and tackle companies. One of them, of course, was where William Shakespeare's company was founded. So we're going to take this apart. We'll give it a quick look. We'll give it the oil and the tune-up that David has asked for, and we'll get it back to him, hopefully that he'll take it fishing. Very nice reel overall, and let's get started. So we're going to get started by removing the exterior pieces. These are usually rather simple reels. They have a gear that's going to drive the line guide. They have a main gear that is going to provide the power for that, and they have a secondary gear that's going to be turning the spool. So to do that, you want to take a wrench. In this case, I'm using an 8mm, but I imagine it's a 1/4-inch wrench. It was probably made before U.S. production switched over to metrics. And regardless, I normally would use a nut driver for this, but it just so happens that the 8mm wrench is going to work. So we'll go ahead and do that. That nut cap will come off. We just adjust this a little bit on the view so that you can see that a little better. Now we'll take the handle off and just check behind the handle. Make sure that you don't have any washers or that hanging up there. You needed to remove the handle in order to remove this side plate cover. There's 4 side plate covers, screws. We'll take them out next. Now, that screwdriver fits, but it's probably a little bit easier to do that with a micro driver. And for those of you just starting on this as a hobby, I would recommend you just go and get yourself a nice set of the micro drivers. They're inexpensive. I think this one was from Harbor Freight for maybe $6 or $7. It wasn't very expensive, but you will find that they do come in handy. And if you keep them on your desk, well, when you get in a situation like this, you want to match your screwdriver tip to the slot in the screw. You don't want it to be overly ill-fitting or loose. You want to make sure that they're nice, tight, snug fit, and that way you won't damage that slot while you're working on it. And I like these. They're a little bit longer. They don't require as much effort and the hand strength, and I always like to twirl that screwdriver rather than turn it, so if I can do that, I do. I'm taking the 4 screws that have come out of the side plate, and I'm placing them on my table. I want to make sure that they are all the same size before I put them into my parts tray. The parts tray that I use is simply a bottom of a fast food container, and if you put all your pieces and parts into that parts tray, well, you're going to know where they are when you go to reinstall the reel. All right, let's take the side plate off then. Probably have to remove this as well, maybe. Nope, that doesn't have to come off, or does it? And we're going to have the whole of this reel. We're going to exit from this side. We have the spool. We have the line guide assembly. Okay, with a little effort, that gear will come off. And then you'll notice on the back of this gear that there is a slot, and there's a corresponding pin in that worm that's going to provide the drive. So we can, I'll look at this a little bit askew here. You can back this out, make sure that it's nice and clean. I'm going to use a little bit of penetrating oil for that. Clean the channels out. And there's a little stud on the back here that's going to mount back into. So I'm going to use a little bit of grease on that stud just to give it a little bit of an assist. And we can go reload that. Easy enough. Now you can see how that handle is going to drive the worm gear. And it's a nice smooth operating worm gear there. So this is acting as your main gear. And then we have the spool gear, which is permanently attached to the spool as the secondary gear. So this is going to, the handle is going to drive the main gear, to drive the spool gear, and then the slot is going to drive the axle shaft for your worm gear. Very nice design. A little bit different, and kind of like that. All right, make sure it's clean. I don't see much going on here in terms of that. The plastic will age over time. We want to just put a little bit of grease onto the back shaft of your spool. That's going to seat itself in that side spool carrier cap. It's interesting, when you find these reels, a lot of times you'll find them missing those exterior components, and usually it's that cap. So make sure you know what the design of this reel is if you're shopping for one, and make sure that all of the pieces and parts are on here. I can't tell you how many times that cap or the line guide cap goes missing. All right, we just need to reline that. I turned that upside down to show you and broke that out of the piece. This is relatively uncomplicated. There's not much going on here, and those of you that watch my channel know I am a fan of simplicity. The more simple it is and the more direct the drive, the better. But as I mentioned, you won't find an anti-reverse on this. Your hand is the drag, and you have the knuckle buster component to it that was common on these reels in the day. This one's got a big enough drive to it that I think you probably, if you wanted to, you could use this inshore ocean in addition to freshwater use. All right, we're just going to make sure we align that slot in the gear with the post that's on the drive. And this is still, it's well engineered because it fits nice. You need to do two things now. You need to align that slot and mesh that gear. And then before you close this up, make sure you turn it to ensure that everything is turning properly. There you go. And a nice easy turn. I'm turning the spool to make that happen. And all we have to do on this side then is just a little bit of a cleaning. I'm going to use some penetrating oil to get rid of that old grease. And 4/0 steel wool, which is the lightest or the finest. It's a buffing steel wool. It's not an aggressive steel wool. But there's some pretty dried grease on there, so I would prefer to make sure that we get that off. If you like these kinds of videos, please subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please hit that notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting, and you'll get a chance to see the reels I'm working on and make a choice as to whether that's a reel that you want to learn a little bit more about. Your subscriptions help you and they help me, so I do appreciate those of you that have subscribed, and ask those of you that are still thinking about it to go ahead and do that. If you have a question on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave that in the comments section, I'll try and answer that question for you. And maybe you're working on a reel and you're a little stuck. Maybe you just want to know a little bit more about how a reel operates. Just leave it in there, and if I can get a chance, I'll try and give you that answer. All right, just buffing up a little bit. There was a little bit of residual dirt there that I noticed. I'm going to put a little bit more grease onto the shaft here, which is going to come through that sleeve on the gear side. And then we'll button this back up, and we'll give it a test, and we'll get it back to David to go fishing. Nice reel overall. I really have come to appreciate the designs on these earlier bait casters. I think that they were wonderful feats of engineering. And I was just watching a video, Young Martin's Reels. He's a subscriber to our channel. He had a little reel video out there on the closed-face bait casters, why things go wrong. And one of his comments kind of stuck with me. He said, you think kids' reels are just kids' reels. I guess he was working on a Shakespeare reel that had a little branding on it, maybe for, I forget exactly who now, Batman or somebody. And the notion was a lot of people will dismiss it. Well, mechanically, the reels are fine. And I think sometimes these get a bad rap for whatever reason. But those that have been around long enough to know the reels know that there's really nice engineering inside of these. And quite honestly, they can outfish some of the reels, modern day reels, and certainly they're going to last a lot more than some of those modern day reels that we see out there today. All right, that goes on. Last of the side plate screws go on, and we noticed that all 4 of those screws were the same size, so it didn't matter which piece you put them in. This is an adjuster now. It's a spool tensioner. It's going to put pressure on it as you tighten it down. I'm going to put that handle back on. Put the handle cap back on. And we'll give it a whirl. There you go. All ready to go fishing again. Beautiful reel. It's the Kalamazoo Tackle Company, the Bal Cli or Sly 20 special, and fun reel all around. Greased up, cleaned up, ready to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed that. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you've been doing to keep us safe during the pandemic. And to everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.